What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an amazing, probably extremely underrated deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. This is a Lickilicky EX, Dialga EX, and Tauros deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket, and I'm going to explain why this is underrated. One, nobody's using this, and this is going to be a hidden gem. I've loved playing this deck so far, and I'll talk about why I put it together. But first, before I get into it, I do want to say, if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. First, why I wanted to put this deck together. First, I wanted a Lickilicky EX deck. I've noticed that nobody is using Lickilicky EX, and being as how it requires 4 energy for its attack, Licking Fury, I figured I was going to have to pair it with a Pokemon that could charge it up a little bit, and that's why I decided to pair Lickilicky with Dialga. I decided to throw Tauros in there because Tauros is very similar to Meowscarada. There's been a lot of rave about Meowscarada lately, and for good reason. It deals a ton of damage to EX Pokemon. Tauros was the original Pokemon that could deal a ton of damage to EX Pokemon, but it was so hard to power it up. 3 colorless energy for a potential 120 damage. With no Pokemon to turbocharge Tauros, it was very hard to get 3 energy. But now, paired with Dialga EX, it's actually really easy to put 3 energy onto Tauros, and believe it or not, it works really well. But let's go over the cards, and then I'll talk more about why this deck is amazing and this combination is amazing. So first, I'll talk about Lickilicky EX. And this is going to be found in the Palkia pack. For 4 colorless energy, Licking Fury does 100 damage, and you flip a coin until you get tails. For every heads, you do 40 more damage. So of course, there's a 50% chance you only do 100 damage. However, there is a chance you do 140, there's a chance you do 180. I've done a 260 damage with Licking Fury before, so you have the potential to KO any Pokemon in the game, which is absolutely awesome and can come really clutch in a pinch or when you're on the brink of defeat. Lickilicky EX can come in handy. Of course, you need to have a Lickitung to evolve. I'm going with the one from the Shining Revelry deck, and there are a couple of Lickitungs in the game right now. The reason why I go with the one from the Shining Revelry deck is because for only 2 colorless energy, you have rollout for 30 damage. So there are other Lickitungs that require a little bit more energy. I prefer the one that doesn't require as much. So if I do start with the Lickitung, I can at least after a couple of turns get a hit or 2 off. So I do prefer that Lickitung. However, it's really going to be up to you, but that's the one I prefer. Now let's talk about, of course, the turbocharger Dialga EX. Dialga EX you're going to find from the Space Time Smackdown packs, and you're going to have Metallic Turbo for 2 metal energy. Take 2 energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon, and it's also going to deal 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So of course, this is great when paired up with Lickilicky EX. You can more easily get those 4 energy on it, and also great for Tauros because you can more easily get those 3 energy on it. After 1 Metallic Turbo for a Tauros, it's pretty much ready to go. Lickilicky is going to require maybe 2 Metallic Turbos or at least another turn to get an extra energy from your energy zone on it before it's ready to go. But Dialga EX is great when paired with both of these 2 Pokemon. So if you're looking to use either Tauros or Lickilicky EX, Dialga is going to be the perfect pairing for either of them. You can if you really wanted to put a different Pokemon in Lickilicky's place, you absolutely can do that. This is definitely a deck that you can plug and play a little bit. Again, the reason why I like Lickilicky EX here is, one, I wanted a deck for Lickilicky EX, if I'm being perfectly honest. Also, it can come extremely clutch. As I said, there's no max to the damage that Lickilicky EX can do. Of course, there's a 50% chance you're only doing 100, but if you're lucky, you can do 140, you can do 180, you can do 220 or 260. You can defeat any Pokemon in the game if you get that lucky flip the coin. So that's why I do like Lickilicky, and I wanted to put it in the decks. Tauros is just awesome. For 3 energy, being turbocharged, it's pretty easy to get that now, and you can deal, for fighting tackle, is 40 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, the attack does 80 more damage. And you can find Tauros in the Mythical Island packs. And that's awesome, 120 damage for 3 colorless energy. There are a lot of EX Pokemon in the game, and nobody is going to be expecting a Tauros. Most people, if they're trying to deal extra damage to EX Pokemon, you're going with your Sudowoodo, you're going with your Meowscarada. You're not going to expect a Tauros. Not many people are using Tauros, but it is an absolute hidden gem when paired with Dialga EX. It's easy to equip those energy on, and if you wanted to, you can retreat with your Dialga, throw your Tauros in that active slot, and deal a massive amount of damage to your opponent's EX Pokemon. So leading right into what I want to talk about next is going to be our trainer card Red. This pairs insanely well with Tauros. Of course, Red, during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do plus 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX. That means in one turn, your Tauros can deal 140 damage to your opponent's active EX Pokemon. That is massive. It's going to KO a lot of EX Pokemon by adding Red to this deck. So Red is a must in this deck, and it's going to be crucial to dealing a ton of damage to your opponent. And if you attach Red to your Lickilicky EX, your Lickilicky at a bare minimum is going to be dealing 120 damage. So that's nice as well to deal a ton of damage to your opponent's EX Pokemon. But you can tear through opponents with these Pokemon combinations plus Red. Now let's talk about the other support cards. Leaf is pretty important in this setup. Leaf, during this turn, the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 2 less. So it's going to save your energy depending upon which Pokemon is in that active slot, whether it's Lickitung, whether it's Tauros, whether it's Dialga. It's going to save the energy on those Pokemon and going to make it easy for you to retreat. It's also nice having Leaf because it can counter a Sabrina. If Sabrina forces a Pokemon into that active slot, you can have them retreat. Leaf is really nice for that. Leaf is going to be found in the Mythical Island packs, and Red is in the Shining Revelry packs. I forgot to mention that a little ago, but Red's in that Shining Revelry, and Leaf is going to be in your Mythical Island. Now, the other support cards, Pokeball, pretty basic, so you can get those Pokemon quicker, whether it's Lickitung, Dialga, or Tauros. You're definitely going to need your Pokeballs, and that is a card that you can just purchase from the store. Your Professor's Research, again, important to get all of the cards out of your deck so you can use whichever one you need. Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. It's another card that you can purchase from the store. The last 2 that I absolutely love with this deck are Rocky Helm. Attach it to your Pokemon. If the Pokemon's in the active slot and they're damaged by an attack, then your Pokemon deals 20 damage due to Rocky Helm to that Pokemon. So it's nice to deal some extra damage. It also deters your opponent from attacking if they do have a weak Pokemon. That's found in the Palkia packs. And finally, Cyrus. I love Cyrus in the majority of my decks. Cyrus, for those of you who don't know, switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon that has damage to it into the active slot. This deck is going to be dealing a lot of damage to EX Pokemon. Your opponents are probably going to have those Pokemon retreat to try and protect them. Cyrus is going to make it so your opponent cannot do that. If you have damage on one of your opponent's Pokemon that are on the bench, you can draw them to the active slot and KO them. So with your Tauros, that's going to be dealing 120 damage. With your Lickilicky, that can deal a massive amount of damage. Don't let your opponent's Pokemon hide. So Cyrus is going to be crucial to this deck. This deck is absolutely awesome. I put it together and have loved it ever since. Tauros is going to be dealing a massive amount of damage, especially when coupled with red, to your opponent's active EX Pokemon. Lickilicky is there to provide some extra damage. Perhaps you're facing a Pokemon that is not EX but still extremely strong, or perhaps you want to deal just added damage. You feel like you're on the brink and you need a Pokemon with that extra oomph. Lickilicky is going to be there to do that. Dialga EX is going to be the facilitator. Of course, Dialga is the Pokemon you want in that active slot to start the match. You want to get 2 energy on it for your Metallic Turbo, and then you want to equip 2 energy on your Tauros, energy onto your Lickilicky EX, and then let the battle dictate which Pokemon you're going to put in that active slot. You can also turbocharge another Dialga EX if you really need to. But of course, Lickilicky EX is going to be the better option to turbocharge because it has the option, or luck of the draw, to deal more damage. As I mentioned earlier, I did deal at 1 turn 260 damage. So that's absolutely awesome to be able to do that. Tauros was an extreme surprise, but really awesome. Being able to deal 120 damage to my opponent's EX Pokemon, it caught a lot of my opponents off guard, and utilizing Tauros actually won me a lot of games by concede. A lot of my opponents were not expecting me to do that much damage that quickly with Tauros, thanks to my Dialga. Leaf is going to help to preserve some of the energy, so while Tauros is in the active slot, I can retreat my Dialga. If it has 2 energy on it, I can easily power it up. Remember, even though Tauros is dealing a lot of damage, whether it's 120 against your opponent's EX Pokemon or 140 because you have red, it's only going to cost you 1 point if it does get defeated in battle. So you're gonna need 1 or 2 Pokemon on your bench ready to come into that active slot. So whether it's Dialga, whether it's Lickilicky, it doesn't matter, but you're definitely gonna need another Pokemon if your Tauros isn't able to finish off your opponent's Pokemon. So you don't want to lose that energy. You want Leaf to make sure you can preserve the energy, and it's also nice to counteract a Sabrina. I like Cyrus to make sure that my opponents cannot hide if I've dealt a ton of damage to their EX Pokemon. I have Tauros, I have red. Even if I'm only doing the 30 damage with Dialga, I can still add a red and do 50. I have Rocky Helm to deal extra damage as well, so if my opponent decides to attack, that could be 70 damage potentially with a Metallic Turbo and my Rocky Helm. So that still is a lot of damage that I don't want my opponent to hide from. So I can Cyrus them in, perhaps hit them with a Tauros, maybe hit them with Dialga again, but I don't want my opponent to hide. Of course, Professor's Research and Pokeball are going to help get all of my cards into my hand quicker so I can play whichever ones I need depending on how the battle is progressing. I absolutely love this. If you like Lickilicky or are looking for a good Lickilicky deck, I absolutely recommend checking this one out. Tauros combined with Dialga is awesome. Like I said earlier, you can probably pair different Pokemon in this deck and still really make it work. You could probably have Arceus here and then another trainer card if you wanted to do that. Again, the reason why I like Lickilicky is just because 1, I like Lickilicky as a Pokemon, and 2, it does have the potential to deal massive amounts of damage, where Arceus is going to be capped at 130 as long as you have a full bench. Lickilicky can deal just so much more damage. Every other turn, you're going to be dealing at least 140. You have a 50% chance of dealing at least 140 damage. So that's a decent amount to be dealing to your opponents at a bare minimum. And if you attach red, that's going to go up to 160, which is really nice. Of course, not guaranteed because you have to flip a coin, but Arceus, you have to make sure you have a full bench. That may not always be the case depending on how the battle's progressing and depending on how your hand is progressing as well. But there are also other colorless type Pokemon that you could probably put in here if you wanted to have some fun with this deck, because Tauros is that powerful. You'll probably play around with this a little bit and rely a lot on Tauros and Dialga combination while also having another Pokemon in this deck. Definitely recommend playing around, but check this one out and let me know in the comments section what you think of this deck build. Let me know if you've had a similar deck build to this one. What do you think about it? What are some of the substitutions of cards that you would make in this deck? Like I said, definitely a lot of different Pokemon combinations that you can play with. I really like this combination, and it's, let's be honest, fun to see that I dealt 260 damage to a Pokemon. I can guarantee there is no Charizard player that's going to be expecting you KOing their Charizard by using Licking Fury. Let's talk anything Pokemon in the comment section. Is there a Pokemon, a specific Pokemon that you want a deck for? If there is, let me know in the comments section and I'll put together a deck revolving around your favorite Pokemon. Just let me know in the comments section and I'll put something together. I'll do some research. I'm putting together some other decks right now that I haven't seen. I'm trying to try new Pokemon so I can give a lot of players new builds, new decks that they can try out. Currently, I'm experimenting with a Bibarel EX deck because I haven't seen many players utilize it. So that's where I'm going to right now. If y'all have any Bibarel decks that you can think of, let me know in the comment section. But right now I'm experimenting around with a water deck around Bibarel and Articuno. But let me know in the comment section if you've already experimented. So we are coming down to the end of the video. Thank y'all for sticking around. I hope y'all enjoy this video. I hope y'all enjoy this build. Make sure y'all comment, let me know what you think of it and what tweaks you'd make to it. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, peace.